Let's welcome to our call today, Tom Ziglar. Tom, you're on the call. Are you there, sir?
I am here. I'm excited. I heard Dr. Breakthrough loud and clear, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on in. So, Dr. Breakthrough, if you're there, I can probably hear you.
Okay.
I'm excited to. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say, Tom did such an incredible job, and since I'd taken some of the time, I was like, dude, we got to have you come back and cover the power of atmosphere, and what he taught him was so powerful. I mean, people were writing, taking notes like crazy, and so you want to get something to write on, something to write with. I promise you, my friend, if you learn the principles that he's going to teach you today, the power of setting atmosphere,
Tom, can you hear me, sir?
It's time for you to stop being a thermometer and be a thermostat. So, Tom, do what you do best, man. Empower God's people.
You bet. Well, I'm excited to be here, and today I want to talk about atmosphere. But first, what I want to ask a question is, here's a question: where and Dr. Breakthrough, I know you like words, so you're going to like this one. Where do good habits live? And here's the answer: habits inhabit habitats. So there you go.
Cool.
I use the word habit. Habits inhabit habitats. That'll get me excited, man. So what's a habitat? In the world, when we talk about animals and God's creation, they were created for a habitat. They were specially designed and engineered to live in a place that benefited them, that they could grow in and mature and create and do all the things. And so I want to tell everybody here today that you have a special power, and that power is you can create your own habitat, and the key to that is atmosphere. And atmosphere is a powerful, powerful thing, and you have the superpower inside of you to take atmosphere wherever you go. A lot of people talk about culture, or they talk about environment, and those are good words, but they just don't do it justice. What we've got to do is we got to go into the spiritual. We've got to go one step further and think about atmosphere. Just in my own experience, I've spoken all over the world. I've been in manufacturing facilities where there's sawdust on the ground and people are sweating and it's dirty and it's hot, and the atmosphere is unbelievable because they love each other and they've got each other's back and they're eating lunch together, they're doing life together, and they're going on vacation together. And so the atmosphere isn't dependent upon the environment, right? It's not the stuff on the wall or the furniture in the room. I've been in Singapore on the 70th floor of a $1 billion bank building doing training, and the atmosphere was dead. I mean, all these people with all this stuff going on, and there was no life in the room. So what's the difference? The difference is atmosphere. The difference is what is it that you bring to the table. And so when you walk into a room, I actually say there's two kinds of people in the world. There's the kind of people that life happens to, and then there's, like Dr. Breakthrough, the kind of people that happen to life, right? What we got to do is we got to make in our mind this mindset that we're going to go out and we're going to happen to life. We're going to create the atmosphere. We're going to bring the atmosphere wherever we go. And so what I want to do today is I want to give you the 4 keys, the 4 words that I use to define atmosphere, to create atmosphere, to really take it forward. So here they are. I'm going to give them to you up front, and then we'll break it down. So the words around atmosphere are this: we got to choose it, we got to change it, we got to create it, and we got to cultivate it. But those are the 4 words. So choose it, change it, create it, and cultivate it. So I explain what it is. It's that spiritual thing that you take with you wherever you go. There's some people. Dad used to say this. Some people could brighten up a room just by leaving it, and we all know what kind of person that is, right? That's that negative Ned, that person who's just got that cloud around them. That's not the atmosphere we're talking about. We're talking about somebody who is positively contagious. They walk in, the Spirit of God's with them. They are just somebody you want to hang around. It's almost like your energy goes up just by having them in the same atmosphere as you. And so let's talk about choosing the atmosphere, because that's the first place. And I want to give you a quote that I use quite often, and here it is. This will illustrate it. A tree's fruitfulness depends on its rootfulness. Let me say that again. A tree's fruitfulness depends on its rootfulness. And so I want you to envision right now, just a quick metaphor, your own tree, your tree of life. What is the fruit that you want on your tree? When people come to you and they see you, what's the fruit that they want to see? Now, I'm going to give you, you've got to take your own notes. You've got to figure out your own fruit, but I'll just give you some good ideas here. You know what? I want a good reputation. I want the fruit of reputation. I want the fruit of good relationships. I want the fruit of good physical health. And you know what? I want some dollar signs on my fruit, right? I want some prosperity. I want some blessings. Why do I want blessings? So that I can bless others, so that I can walk forward knowing that I can help those in need. I want to have happiness. And I'll be honest with you. I want a vacation home. You know, I want to be able to travel a little bit. These are some of the fruits that I want. And so I encourage you, as you think about the atmosphere that you want, I want you to choose the fruits that you want in your life. And the reason this is important is because the fruit doesn't happen by accident, right? The fruit needs to be nourished. And so what nourishes the fruit? Well, the roots do. And at Ziglar, we've been teaching for 5 decades that there are 7 roots that we've got to nourish. So I want you to think of a tree. You've written your fruits on the top of the tree. So what are the roots that are going to nourish those? Here are the 7 roots that we always talk about. There's the mental, which is the mindset, right? It's our belief, it's our attitude, it's what we think about the world. Then there's the spiritual root. This is our character and our integrity, our faith, our kindness, our love, all the fruits of the, you know, when we talk about biblically, the fruits of the Spirit, this is the root, the spiritual root that really nourishes that. So what do we believe in spiritually? And then there's the physical. And the physical is our health, right? It's our ability to carry out what we want in life. The physical root depends on how much we sleep, what we eat, how much movement we get, how we handle stress, those kind of things. The 4th root is family. Gosh, we've got to be an influence, an example in our family. We got to do the things for our family that are going to allow us to be that leader, to be that example that creates the legacy that we all want. And then after the family root is what we call the financial root. And this is our stewardship. This is how we handle money. This is how we expect money. These are the decisions we make around money. We delay gratification because we know that there are bigger things in store. And when we have this ability to understand how money works, it allows us to dream. And dreaming is a big part of the financial root. And then the next root, the 6th root, is the personal root. And then this one is what brings us energy? What are the goals that we have in our life? What is it that makes us uniquely us? That if we understand who we are, how God created us, how we're going to go to that next level. And finally, there's the 7th root, which is career. And when I think of career, I want you to think of economic engine. It's like your rocket engine that allows you to create income or wealth. And you know, you could work for someone, you could own your own business, you can be a coach, you can be an investor. There's so many ways to do that. So let's go back to the foundation. A tree's fruitfulness depends on its rootfulness. So how are we nourishing those 7 roots? Well, I'll give you the answer. The answer is this. We've got to create habits in each one of those roots that automatically produce the fruit. And I'll just give you an example. If our fruit that we want to have is great relationships, which of the roots do we have to create good habits in? Well, obviously mindset, because if we don't have the right attitude, the right mindset, the right belief, it's going to be difficult to have good relationships. Oh, what about the spiritual root? Absolutely. Can you have a good relationship without trust, without integrity, without the character qualities that we've got to develop? No, you can't. So we've got to develop that. What about the physical root? Hey, if we're going to have good relationships in life, we've got to take care of our physical health. Otherwise, we're not going to have the energy and the capacity to help others and make a difference in their lives. So you can see where we're going here. We've got to create habits in each of these roots so that the fruit becomes automatic. Just about every good fruit needs multiple habits and multiple roots. And just remember this, that good habits nourish your roots, and all a good habit is a good choice made over and over again. The second one, okay, so that was choose it. So if we want to create the atmosphere in our life, first we've got to have a very clear picture of the atmosphere that we want. And what do we want? We want an atmosphere that good fruits live in. That's the habitat, right? That's the atmosphere. So number two is we got to change it. So here's the reality. We're going to go through life and we're going to get knocked down. Life is tough. And things aren't going to go our way every day. And what we'd hoped would happen sometimes doesn't happen. We're going to have to overcome obstacles and barriers. There could be relationships that break down or illness. There's all kinds of things that can go on. But here is a superpower. We can change the atmosphere wherever we go. But until we know the atmosphere we want, it's hard to change it. And so what do I love? I love an optimistic, positive, life-giving atmosphere, an atmosphere filled with hope and encouragement. So I'm going to tell you about a trip that I took last year, January 3rd, 2019. I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I got done speaking. I was coming back to Dallas, and my plane had to connect from Grand Rapids to Chicago to Dallas. The direct flight left at 3 o'clock from Grand Rapids to Dallas, but I wasn't going to get to the airport until 3 o'clock, so I couldn't make that flight. Well, I get to the airport at 3. I go to my gate, and I look up, and oh my goodness, the direct flight from Grand Rapids to Dallas was delayed, which meant that I had a chance to get on that flight. So I put on the big Ziglars smile. I mean, I went up to the front where the gate agent is, and I said, "Hey, it's a great day, isn't it?" And they said, "Absolutely." And I said, "I got a question for you. That plane that you're starting to board right now that's going nonstop from here to Dallas, are there any seats on it?" And the gate agent said, "Oh, yeah, there's a lot of seats." And I said, "Fantastic, because I want to get on that plane." So the gate agent said, "Let me see your itinerary." I handed her the itinerary. She starts mashing buttons, and her smile went to a frown in 30 seconds flat. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, you're flying on the next flight out going through Chicago to Dallas. I can't change the flight for you. You've got to call the help desk." Oh, I wasn't very happy about that. So I get on the phone, I call the help desk, and then those words that we just love, no, I'm just kidding, those words that we always anticipate that we don't want to hear came on. They said this: "Due to unusual call volume, the average wait time before you can talk to a customer service representative is 25 minutes. So there I am in the airport. They're boarding my plane that I'm trying to get on, and I'm going to be on hold for probably 20 or 30 minutes. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, the plane door closes. I don't make the flight. So there I am. I've got a choice. I can have a pity party right there in the airport in Grand Rapids, or I can change the atmosphere." So I have a secret. Whenever I travel with $5 Starbucks cards and a little quote book. And so what I do is I get these little Starbucks cards. I put them inside this little quote book. It's just a little pamphlet. It's got all the Zig Ziglar quotes in it. And I give one of those Starbucks cards and quote books to each person in the flight crew. And I do it because I'm going to change the atmosphere. So I get on the plane, the two flight attendants are at the front of the plane, and I ask them a question. I said, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And they look at me with concern because, this guy's got a question right out of the gate. And that usually doesn't mean good stuff. And they said, "Sure, what's your question?" I could see the look of concern in their face. And I said, "Hey, do you like Starbucks?" And they looked at me and they're like, "Yeah, we love Starbucks." And so I handed them each a $5 Starbucks card and a little book of quotes, and the smile just lit up the room. They said, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much." And then I said, "Look, here are two more, and I want you to give them to the pilots. How many more flight crew do you have? And they said, oh, we got one more in the back. And I said, I'm going to give them one too. And then they said, why do you do this? And I said, look, here's the reality. When the plane breaks or the weather's bad, you get all the credit. You had nothing to do with it. But when things go smooth and you do a great job, nobody says thank you. This is my way of saying thank you in advance because I appreciate what you do. Oh, their smiles were beaming. And before I got off the plane, I had selfies with them. I had pictures with the pilots. They gave me some free food. I mean, stuff that I'm not expecting, right? I'm just trying to change the atmosphere. But I want you to think about this. Because I made the decision to change the atmosphere, my trip home was fun. And the reality was I was getting home 4.5 hours later, whether my attitude was good or bad. So I fly from Grand Rapids to Chicago. I get off the plane. I get on the other plane, Chicago to Dallas. I do the same thing. We change the atmosphere. 30 minutes into the flight, one of the flight attendants comes to me, and she kind of stoops over, and she says, hey, that was really nice, giving us the Starbucks card and the quote book. And I said, oh, my pleasure. And then she said, that's something my brother would have done. He just passed away. And I sat there and I realized, okay, that's why I didn't get on the earlier plane. I needed to have this conversation with this flight attendant. And so I want to propose to you that when you go out to create the atmosphere, when you look at the spiritual power that you have to influence everybody around you, and you go with a good word of hope and encouragement to make a difference, God is going to position you to impact people along the way, people you've never met, people who you might do life with, have friendships with. And so when we think of the atmosphere, we choose the atmosphere we want, and then wherever we go, we're prepared to change it and bring our atmosphere into the room. Number 3 is create it. And create it is awesome. I mean, this is when we get nitty gritty. This is when we start thinking about, okay, that's the atmosphere I want. I'm gonna change the atmosphere wherever I can, but in my own life, in my own work, in my own business, in my own house, I'm gonna create the atmosphere. And so I'm going to give you a real simple example. One of our guys, his name is Matt McKinley. He's a business owner out in East Texas, and he's got about 22 people working for him. I went out to visit his place a few years ago, and it was doing awesome. And then a year and a half later, I went out, and it had grown. I mean, it had grown like 30%. And he had all this inventory. They sell high-end horse trailers, and everybody's buzzing and running around. And Matt says to me, he says, Tom, I want to show you something. And so he opens up this whiteboard. You know, it's one of those whiteboards you see in offices, and it's closed, and he opens it up. And on the inside of it is all of his team members' names, all 22 of them. They've got their goals written down and, you know, how they're doing and all that kind of good stuff. But in the middle of it was a picture, and the picture was of a bicycle. And the bicycle had 2 wheels on it, and the back wheel was the Ziglar Wheel of Life. And so for those of you who haven't heard of the Ziglar Wheel of Life, what we do is we have this little assessment on the 7 roots, the 7 spokes of the wheel that I talked about earlier, the mental, spiritual, physical, family, financial, personal, and career. And what we do is we ask people to do a self-assessment on it and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on the 10 questions that we ask around each one. So, you know, like on physical, I'll just give you an example. We talk about your appearance and your physical health and how much sleep you're getting and those kind of things. And so people rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. So a perfect score would be 100. And you take that score, you divide by 10. So you would get a 10 out of 10 there. But most people, when they do this, they end up with 4s and 5s and 6s and 7s because you just add it up. Anyway, hard to explain on the phone call, but this is what he did. He said, Tom, look at this. And what he had done is he had each person on his team fill out the wheel of life anonymously and turn it back into him. So all 22 people filled out the wheel. So he took all their numbers, right, for mental, and he added them all up, and then he divided by 22 because that's how many people were on his team. And he discovered that the average mental state of his team was about a 5.2. And then he did the spiritual, and he did the same thing, and he did the physical, and he did the same thing. And so right there on the board was his company's wheel of life. And then he said, Tom, I sat down with my team and I said, look, my job as the owner, my job as the leader is to help everybody here improve. Because if we get that wheel of life right, we don't have any problem winning in business. So I want you to think about that. Here's a business owner who said this: you're important to me. I want to know how you're doing mentally, spiritually, physically, in your family, in your personal life, in your financial life, in your business life. I want to know how you're doing on this scale. And it's going to be anonymous, right? Because we're going to work on it together as a team, as a family, as a company. And my job is this: to help you grow in each of those areas, because I know that if your mental life is strong, your spiritual life is strong, your physical health is good, your family life is good, your financial life is good, your personal life is good, that we're not going to have any trouble here at our business. And I looked at him and I said, Matt, man, that's amazing. And then he smiled, and we were sitting in his office, and I was looking at him and he was looking at me, and behind me was all of his employees out there working on the floor. And he looked at me and he said, Tom, when I got this right, and he pointed to his heart, he said, when I got my heart right, I got that right. And so then he pointed to his team. And so this is what I want to tell you. When we choose the atmosphere for ourselves, right, the fruit that we want to have, and we go to work to build on our own atmosphere so we can create the fruits, when we start working on the habits that automatically produce the fruit in our own personal life, that's really getting our heart right. And when we get our heart right, then we can go out and create the atmosphere for those we do life with, for those we work with. So that's the third step. So remember, it's choose it, change it, create it, and the last one is cultivate it. Because here's the reality. Man, life changes every day. Things come up. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are or what you're doing. It's going to be a little bit different tomorrow than it is today. But we got to cultivate it every single day. What does cultivation mean? It means we got to fertilize it. We got to continue the right input. We got to grow on a daily basis. We got to seek out truth and wisdom and associate with the right kind of people. Get a coach or a mentor. We gotta find people who are already where we want to be and find out how they got there. And then we got to do different things on a daily basis to get different results. So we got to cultivate it. We got to choose the right input. And that means that we also might have to guard our hearts and our minds against the wrong input. Cultivation means we got to do some weeding every now and then. We got to take an honest assessment of some habits that we might have developed that are keeping us from where we want to go. So when we choose the right input and then we cultivate the right area, right? We weed it and we water it and we fertilize it, the tree grows. But it's a never-ending growth, right? It's a never-ending attention. So that's it. You guys, we all, every single one of us, we got a choice today. Are we going to happen to life, or are we going to let life happen to us? And here's what I want to tell you. If you make a commitment to create the atmosphere, choose the atmosphere, change the atmosphere, cultivate the atmosphere wherever you go, life is going to be a lot more fun. So there you go. There's a little teaching on atmosphere. Remember, a tree's fruitfulness depends on its rootfulness. And when you use the power of atmosphere, it will change your life. All right.
Wow. Man, oh man, oh man, that's incredible. And so in essence, what I heard you saying is your attitude also affects the atmosphere, but you want to step beyond, and you actually gave us 4 powerful things that we can do about that. And so I hope everyone under the sound that's live on this call, and if you're not live, if you hear the recording, that you will, I like to say note takers are money makers, but action takers are bigger money makers. So it's good to take notes. And I've got all the 4 things written down, then the 7 things, the 7 roots. but it's more important to take action on the notes that you took. And so we trust that's what you do. You know, the Bible says the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. So whereas other folks were blessed, others weren't. And the only difference was some just heard it, but others applied it. And so I applaud you for hearing it. Now let's heed it, let's apply it. And guess what? You get to see incredible benefits, but not just that. You get to be an atmosphere changer, atmosphere creator, atmosphere cultivator, atmosphere changer, and you get to choose it. And so thank you very much, Tom. This is very powerful. And folks, do you see now why after hearing him, I was like, bro, you got to come back and cover that. So this could, see, you don't understand it, but I often say it takes one person, one decision, or one action to change your life forever. You are that person. You must decide, and you must take action. And Tom has just armed you with things today that you can change the rest of your life. Listen, you can change today, and you can change every day hereafter. You can change the rest of your life because he just gave you something very profound and yet very simple that you can utilize. Coach 100K, what you got to say, man?
Wow. Wow. Let me say it backwards. Wow. All right. Hey, listen, that was incredible. Tom, I follow Ziglar, as one of my mentors of reading. And I just so glad you introduced us back to the wheel. I didn't pay much attention to it the first time, but this time here, I'm going to dig in. Your fruitfulness is in your rootfulness, and it's so profound. There's a lot of meat on that bone still. We look forward to bringing you back one day to unpack us some more because it's definitely impactful on the root of what makes the tree and the fruit, whatever it is. So thank you so much, Tom, for that wisdom. And man, I appreciate you so much.